Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is Explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 235 based on novel. So let's start. Black Chi lingered over the large gate. Lin Dong sat down. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he observed Han Yuan-Tian in front of him, whose eyes had turned blood red almost immediately. If this fellow had come and fight him after trapping him in the deathly silence gate, it might be possible to suppress Xiao Yang a little. However, this person ended up being too arrogant and chose to ignore Xiao Yang, thinking that the death chi within Deathly Silence Gate was sufficient to gradually weaken Xiao Yang. Who could have expected that the death chi was not only unable to block the purifying demonic lotus flame but even the soul stone he hid within the Deathly Silence Gate had been found by Xiao Yang. The spiritual stone could be considered to be the most important thing within the Deathly Silence Gate. Han Yuan-Tian had also hid it extremely well. However, he had forgotten that Xiao Yang, whose soul had stepped into the DI state, only needed to think about it in order to probe every part of the entire Deathly Silence Gate. Regardless of how well the spiritual stone was hidden, it would appear in front of Xiao Yang's probing. With the spiritual stone being found and that Xiao Yang's spiritual strength greatly surpassed Han Yuan-Tian, removing the spiritual imprint on the stone was an extremely simple matter. This was also considered a weakness of the Deathly Silence Gate. However, how many people in this world could reach the DI state soul? This had led to Han Yuan-Tian making quite a foolish mistake. It was also precisely because of this mistake that had resulted in him losing control of the Deathly Silence Gate. Xiao Yang, I will tear you into thousands of pieces. Han Yuan-Tian clenched his teeth. Both of his arms were suddenly lifted. Black vapor crazily gathered in his palms and a terrible smell, which caused one's soul to feel a piercing pain, spread rapidly. Humph! Xiao Yang snorted coldly after seeing this scene. He suddenly stood up. His hand seals changed. A 10,000 feet large illusory figure immediately appeared outside of Xiao Yang's body. A shockingly large wave-like spiritual fluctuation began to swept wildly apart. Yellow Spring Divine Anger. When the Yellow Spring Divine Anger was unleashed by the current Xiao Yang, the enormous figure that appeared no longer seemed illusory. This was because the huge figure was presently filled with rippling light. The originally illusory figure had become a lot more real. At a glance, it appeared like a giant standing between the earth and the sky. A kind of spiritual overlord aura suddenly spread over the battleground. The experts from both parties, who had been exposed to this aura, mostly withdrew hurriedly in shock. Under that pressure, they could feel an impulse to kneel down. This impulse originated from within their souls. The 10,000 feet figure appeared in the clouds. The giant opened its mouth. Immediately, the entire place became completely quiet. Only a seemingly real spiritual sonic wave attack was emitted from the mouth of the giant. Finally, it heavily smashed onto the stunned Han Yuan-Tian at a speed faster than that of light. Han Yuan-Tian did not have any time to put up a defense. He had only just recovered his thoughts when blood flowed out from his ears from the attack. Soon after, a cannonball-like assault ruthlessly exploded on his body. A mouthful of fresh blood was spat out. His face was as pale as sheet while his soul had suffered a severe damage. The spiritual sonic wave shook Han Yuan-Tian. Many Han clan's experts had also been sent flying along the way. Some of the weaker individuals had their souls being shattered by the shock. A DI state soul was this terrifying. The area in the sky where the spiritual attack had passed had basically become empty. That originally chaotic battleground had also paused for a moment. The eyes of both parties had a rich horror when looking at the giant standing in the sky. The black cloud, which permeated the sky, had also churned intensely at this moment. There was a rich deathly aura vaguely spreading from it. Boom! 3 vast and mighty auras suddenly collided violently at a certain spot in the sky. A violent explosion occurred. Black flame shot out while 2 figures flew backwards in a somewhat miserable fashion. Only after the 2 figures stabilized their bodies did everyone realize that they were Lei Ying and Yang Jin. Clearly, their opponent was the Nihility Devouring Flame. From the looks of it, however, even with their combined strength, they were unable to gain an upper hand against the Nihility Devouring Flame. A 9-star Do Sheng really did live up to its reputation. Moreover, the fighting strength of the Nihility Devouring Flame was not something that an ordinary 9-star Do Sheng could reckon with. The terrifying devouring power was sufficient to defeat any opponent of the same level. Lei Ying and Yang Jin calmed their churning blood. Their expressions were grave. The both of them had used all of their techniques, yet they were unable to obtain the upper hand. If this continued, they might really end up showing traces of defeat. The battle is in a stalemate. The strength of the Han clan is indeed far greater than what we understand. Lei Ying's eyes swiftly swept over the place while he had the time and saw that many experts of the Lei clan had perished. Although he felt a heartache, there was nothing he could do. This was the cruel reality of a war. Yang Jin nodded slightly. From the looks of the current situation, this would definitely be a big miserable war. However, no matter the price, they must snatch the ancient jade back. This was because they understood that once the Hun clan opens the Chu-Shi ancient god mansion and obtain the secret to advance into the Do-Di class from within, just Hun Tiendi alone would be able to eliminate all the three clans. At that time, they would truly be faced with the danger of their clan being exterminated. We cannot give up. The two of them exchanged glances and saw a ruthlessness from both parties' eyes. Regardless of how miserable the fight was, they were currently still possessing a numerical advantage. The Hun clan had prepared for hundreds or thousands of years in order to gather the ancient jades. Isn't your thoughts a little simple if you think that you can stop our plans so easily? The nihility devouring flame stepped on the air and laughed coldly as he once again appeared in front of them. A chill flashed over Lei Ying and Yang Jin's face. They were about to attack when a somewhat hurried voice suddenly sounded from beside their ears. Quick scatter. Something is wrong. The sudden voice caused the both of them to be startled. Their expressions changed drastically. This was because they could hear that the voice belonged to Jiyu Yuan. Just what was it that made him so anxious? A strange buzzing sound was suddenly emitted from the black cloud that covered the sky while the both of them had a change in expression. Waves after waves of dark and cold aura spread rapidly. Are they finally ready? The nihility devouring flame lifted their heads after he heard the buzzing sound. His heart sighed in relief. The three clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance did indeed surpass the Hun clan in terms of the number of experts. If they did not take any action, it was likely that many experts from the Hun clan would end up dying here. The buzzing sound became increasingly hurried. At the same time, a couple of indescribable dark and stern auras slowly appeared from the black cloud. Everyone on the battlefield lifted their heads in the face of this unexpected occurrence. Their uncertain and cautious eyes looked at the black cloud. Boom boom. Black cloud suddenly churned and a couple of black figures shot out. All of them were suspended at various spots in the sky. That is, coffins. Everyone looked at the things that had been shot out from the black fog. They were immediately startled. This was because the things were three black coffins. The dark and densely cold aura was something that seeped out from the coffins. Bang! The three black coffins were suspended in the air. Their covers flew out and three skeleton-like skinny figures slowly stepped out from within. Immediately, three auras, which were even more frightening than Hun Yuantian earlier, erupted from the sky. It caused the expressions of the alliance to change drastically. Hun Tiansheng? Hun Yao? How can all these old ghosts be still alive? Lei Ying's and Yang Jin's eyes suddenly shrunk as they looked at the three figures. Their faces were filled with shock. These three people were even older than Hun Tiendi. Back then, they had already gradually declined and died. Yet, how was it possible for them to appear again today? Xiao Yang, who was seated on the huge black door, had inhaled a breath of cool air because of this scene. Another 3 8-star Doshungs? Moreover, the auras of these three were similar to Lei Ying duo. That not right. The auras of these people aren't quite right. Xiao Yang's current senses were extremely sharp. He had immediately detected that something was wrong. He could sense a deathly aura that was many times denser than that of Hun Yuantian. These three, seems like zombies. The corner of Xiao Yang's eyes twitched rapidly as he muttered. A zombie was an existence like a puppet. However, it was at a higher level as compared to puppets. This was because it required one to use a certain mysterious method to revive some of those who had already died. However, the requirements for the revival was extremely harsh. Additionally, the chance of success was low. Hence, there was usually no one who did such a thing. After all, a true expert would be guarded by the clan or sect after their deaths. No one would wish that the body of their ancestors would be ruined by others after their deaths. Clearly, the Hun clan had used some unknown technique to turn these originally dead experts from the Hun clan into zombies. In this way, these zombies could once again fight for them. Was this the strength that the Hun clan hid? If Hun Yuantian was included, there would be a total of 4 8-star Doshungs. This strength could easily shift the equilibrium of the war in the favor of the Hun clan. 4 silence destruction, deathly world. The mouths of the three figures in the sky were suddenly widened. 3 light spots flew out. After which, they were transformed into 3 10,000 feet large giant black doors. The huge doors were filled with deathly aura. They were surprisingly another 3 deathly silence gates. The black giant door stood at 3 spots in the sky. Deathly auras surged out from them and enveloped the entire place. Under the erosion of the deathly aura, all the experts from the Alliance were stunned to find that the life within their bodies was gradually being lost. The 3 large gates had formed a formation that enveloped the entire Alliance army inside it. From the looks of it, they were actually planning to use this to severely damage the Alliance army. Withdraw. Lei Ying's and Yang Jin's expressions changed drastically at this moment. Clearly, they had also recognized this formation, which had an extremely ferocious reputation during the ancient times. They quickly cried out loud. Hun Yuantian, return to the formation. Use the deathly silence gate and complete the formation, a skinny elder from amongst the trio cried out sternly after seeing the Alliance army retreat. Quick, scatter. Lei Ying's and Yang Jin's heart pounded intensely after hearing the old man's cry. If the formation was completed, it was likely that their losses today would be extremely great. The miserable Hun Yuan Tian swiftly flew into the sky. He looked at the trio while his expression was furious and pale. A moment later, he spoke in a hoarse voice. The deathly silence gate had been snatched by that brat Xiao Yang. The deathly silence gate had been stolen? The three skinny old men's expression became extremely gloomy after hearing Hun Yuantian's words. One of them involuntarily chided, Hun Yuantian, we have prepared for so many years in order to form 4 deathly silence gate. Yet, you have actually lost one of them in such a short amount of time? Hun Yuantian's expression was volatile. His heart was also filled with fury. He did not expect just a small misjudgment on his part had actually given Xiao Yang an opportunity. The formation that they had currently formed was a great formation that was renowned throughout the continent for its ferocity. Only by creating 4 deathly silence gate would it be possible to create a deathly world. Those experts who were trapped inside it would completely be enveloped by the endless deathly aura and gradually die. This was even if they were 7 or 8-star elite Doshungs. If this formation was successfully activated, it would definitely be able to cause the Alliance army to suffer a terrible loss. However, no one had expected that something like this would appear at this critical moment. That brat has actually reached the DI state soul. I did not expect that he is able to swiftly find the spiritual stone that I have hidden within the deathly silence gate and eliminate the spiritual imprint on it. Hun Yuantian clenched his teeth and spoke with great unwillingness. What should we do? There is not much life force remaining in our bodies. After this attack, all the life force remaining in us would be completely exhausted. We will at least need to rest for quite a long period of time in order to be able to attack again. If another big war breaks out during this period of time, we will not be able to intervene. A skinny old man furiously glared at Hun Yuantian before turning to the other two and said, the price has already been paid. Naturally, we cannot simply let our effort be wasted. We will unleash the formation and try to seriously damage the Alliance army. As long as our Hun clan learns of the location of the Chushi ancient god mansion and open it, the clan head will be able to advance into the legendary Do Di class. At that time, it would not be difficult if he wished to truly revive us. A greyish dark-faced skinny elder spoke in a dense voice as his eyes flashed. The other two nodded upon hearing this. This was all they could do now that things had developed until this stage. Hun Yuantian, why aren't you taking your position? If I had known this would happen, I should not have allowed you to intervene earlier and try to rescue Hun Feng. Now, not only did you not manage to rescue him but you have ended up delaying the big plans of our clan. If it is not because you are also a veteran of our Hun clan, I would have already killed you by now. The old man with a dark greyish face turned his head and sternly spoke to Hun Yuantian. Hun Yuantian seemed to have understood that he had really gotten into a big mess this time around. Hence, he did not say anything despite his ugly expression. All he could do was to turn around. His body flashed and he appeared at one side of the sky. Dense deathly aura erupted from his palm. After which, it connected with the 3 deathly silence gate. Immediately, a dark world had wrapped the entire mountain range inside it. The deathly aura eroded all life within it. Xiao Yang, once I capture you, I will definitely make you suffer a fate where you can neither beg to live nor die. A monstrous deathly aura surged out from within Hun Yuantian's body. His face also revealed a cruel and savage expression. The Alliance army gathered together as the monstrous deathly aura spread. Their eyes were cautiously looking at the black chi around them. They could sense that those deathly aura were seeping into his body from every pore. This kind of invasion was not something that they could block by using their do chi or spiritual strength. This is the legendary Death World formation. It is unexpected that the Hun clan is even able to use this. Lei Ying, Yang Jin, and the many experts from the ancient clans had dark and solemn expressions as they looked at the deathly aura spreading around them. Their hearts involuntarily felt an unease. Even if they, as the top experts, were able to resist this aura, those weaker individuals would suffer great damage if this continued. The terrible loss was not something that they could afford. We must quickly charge through. The black submerged king, Jiyu Lei, spoke with a grave expression. He had been held back by 2 experts from the Hun clan, who had reached the 7-star Do Shun class earlier. The big battle that erupted could be considered earth-shaking. Jiyu Lei had never even heard of those 3 experts from the Hun clan, who could match the 4 demon saints, before. Clearly, the Hun clan had been hiding their strength during all these years. Such a strength was far greater than the Jiyu clan. If it was not because they were allied with the Yang clan, Lei clan, and the Sky Mansion alliance, just the strength of the Jiyu clan alone would likely have difficulty fighting the Hun clan. This is difficult. A death realm had already been built over this place. Moreover, these deathly aura can isolate any spiritual probe. If we randomly charge around, it would only lead to the swift exhaustion of our strength, Yang Jin spoke in a deep voice. However, we will also most likely end up dead if we continue to remain here. Jiyu Dao from the three immortals of the Jiyu clan spoke with a bitter smile. Currently, they were in a dilemma. Clan head Jiyu Yuan has likely been held back by Han Tiandi. It would likely be extremely difficult for him to intervene. Fairy Hualing from the Yang clan had an extremely grave expression on her enchanting face. Her aura was also slightly sluggish. Clearly, she had been injured during the big battle from earlier. Everyone became a little quiet. No one had expected that this somewhat favorable situation would suddenly turn into this state. A slight rushing wind sound suddenly appeared from within the deathly aura permeating the sky while everyone was at a loss as to what to do. Many black spears containing rich deathly auras shot from around them. This sudden attack caused the Alliance army to panic a little. There was a dense deathly aura on those black spears. Hence, even their Do-Chi defense was unable to be of much use. The black spears penetrated through some of the Alliance experts. In the blink of an eye, their bodies collapsed and turned into a pile of rotten bones. Traces of black vapor seeped out from within the bones. Damn it. Lei Ying and the others had gloomy faces after seeing that the Alliance was in such a disadvantageous position. They were prepared to forcefully charge out of this death world when the deathly aura in front of them suddenly moved. Immediately, a huge black door appeared in a flash. Do not attack, it's me. The Alliance army was greatly startled after they saw something exactly the same as the three giant gates from earlier. However, a familiar voice was emitted from the huge gate before they could unleash their attacks. Xiao Yang. Lei Ying and the others rejoiced upon hearing this voice. They looked towards the top of the giant black gate. There was a young figure there. It was surprisingly Xiao Yang. Follow me. This death world might be mysterious, but I have managed to snatch one of the deathly silence gate they used to build the formation. Hence, this formation is incomplete. We can charge out from the weakest part of the formation. Xiao Yang looked down at the many experts from the Alliance army and spoke in a deep voice. A joy quickly appeared on everyone's face after they heard this. However, they were in an emergency situation and there was little time for them to pose questions. Lei Ying waved his hand and the large group of experts hurriedly rose into the air. Let's go. Xiao Yang let out a deep cry. He quickly flicked his finger and the huge deathly silence gate below flew out. It covered the area above the army. Waves of suction force erupted. The deathly aura around was completely absorbed by it. The Alliance army quickly felt that the pressure on them had greatly diminished after the deathly aura ceased eroding them. The slowly circulating Do-Chi in their bodies was also quickly recovered. This little fellow is really skilled. He is even able to snatch this deathly silence gate. Lei Ying, Yang Jin, Jiyu Lei and the others greatly rejoiced upon seeing this scene. It was fortunate that Xiao Yang had snatched one of the deathly silence gate. Otherwise, once the formation had truly become perfect, the Alliance army would definitely suffer an extremely serious blow. It should be known that during the ancient times, there had been many rumors of various sects and factions which were totally eliminated by this ultimate formation. The experts from the Hun clan seemed to have detected something as the army quickly flew towards one side of the death world. The deathly aura around the place surged. After which, it was transformed into a 10,000 feet large giant hand of death which ruthlessly slammed towards the Alliance army. Xiao Yang's body flashed and appeared in the sky. Little Yi also appeared on his shoulder. Due to Xiao Yang's soul having stepped into the DI state, Little Yi's aura had also become relatively terrifying. Its current self was likely many times more powerful than the purifying demonic lotus flame back then at the demonic flame realm. Little Yi spat through its mouth after it appeared. Purifying demonic lotus flame shot out in all directions. Finally, it collided ruthlessly with the giant hand of death. Immediately, a sizzling sound appeared throughout the sky. A dense rotten smell also spread. Xiao Yang's hands quickly formed a seal while Little Yi was holding back the giant hand. A 10,000 feet large figure once again appeared on the surface of his body. Its mouth was opened and an earth-shaking spiritual sonic wave swept wildly across the place like a storm. The deathly aura permeating the air was scattered slightly in the face of this spiritual sonic wave attack. After which, a somewhat dim formless barrier appeared a short distance in front of the Alliance army. There seemed to be a figure floating behind the barrier. If one was to look carefully, it was surprisingly Hun Yuantian. Clan head Lei Ying and Yang Jin attack together and break this space. Xiao Yang immediately cried out coldly as he looked at the figure. Lei Ying and the others quickly nodded upon hearing Xiao Yang's cry. Do-Chi immediately surged across the sky. A couple of terrifying attacks were immediately unleashed. Finally, they ruthlessly smashed onto the barrier in front of Hun Yuantian's altered expression. Bang! The formless barrier trembled in the face of the violent attacks by a couple of top-level experts. Finally, it could not endure the burden and emitted a crack sound. Finally, it exploded apart with a loud and clear sound. The deathly aura around the place quickly scattered with the shattering of the formless barrier. Warm sunlight once again poured down from the sky. The faces of the 3 other skinny elders in the sky paled the moment the death world was shattered. Blood was spat out from their mouths. A dense dimness rose in their eyes. They understood that the plan to seriously damage the Alliance today had failed. Warm sunlight came pouring down from the sky like a waterfall. Under the warm sunlight, the deathly aura that permeated the place had also quickly disappeared. Lei Ying and the rest finally sighed in relief after the surrounding deathly aura had completely vanished. They lifted their eyes and looked around. Currently, they were still in the burial mountain range. However, no life had remained in the current mountain range. Clearly, all life had been eroded by the deathly aura from earlier. A black mass of experts from the Hun clan stood in the sky a short distance from the Alliance. Their eyes revealed a ferocious glow as they stared at the Alliance army. However, the expressions of some of the upper echelons amongst them were quite ugly. Clearly, they did not expect that this so-called ultimate killing formation was actually unable to cause much harm to the Alliance army. What happened? Why has the death world been destroyed with such ease? The expression of the nihility devouring flame quickly became gloomy. He looked at Hun Yuantian's group and demanded furiously. Hun Yuantian's group could only smile bitterly in the face of the anger of the nihility devouring flame. The greyish dark-faced elder hesitated for a moment before replying honestly. Hun Yuantian's deathly silence gate had been snatched by Xiao Yang. Currently, the formation isn't complete. Moreover, that Xiao Yang had used the strength of the deathly silence gate to protect the Alliance army. The Alliance army subsequently combined their attacks and forcefully break the area guarded by Hun Yuantian. Bastard. Such an important thing has actually been stolen? What is the point of keeping you around? A fierce glint immediately flashed across the nihility devouring flame's eyes when he heard this. His eyes were dense as he stared at Hun Yuantian. After which, he slammed his hand violently and the space crumbled. A black flame palm landed on Hun Yuantian's body with lightning-like speed, causing the already injured Hun Yuantian to have a weary aura. He clenched his teeth and could only quietly accept the attack. The position of the nihility devouring flame in the Hun clan was basically comparable to Hun Tiendi. Without his existence, it would have been impossible for the Hun clan to last until now. Nihility, sir, it is pointless to be angry now. The Alliance army has not suffered much of a loss. On the other hand, we have exhausted the life force within our bodies. It is impossible for us to use the formation again. The greyish dark-faced elder could only sigh after seeing this scene. Finally, he opened his mouth and pursued. Although Hun Yuantian had committed an extremely foolish mistake, he was also a veteran of the Hun clan. Killing him at this moment would be a big loss to the Hun clan. The nihility devouring flame had a dark and gloomy expression. He glanced at the Alliance army in the distance. Although the Alliance had suffered some losses in the Death World, it was clearly not extremely serious. Their fighting strength was still extremely strong. Let's withdraw for today. Nihility, do it. An icy cold voice suddenly resounded beside the ears of the experts from the Hun clan while the latter were quiet. Their bodies ended up shuddering. This voice belonged to Hun Tiendi. Humph. The nihility devouring flame snorted coldly upon hearing this. He once again glared ruthlessly at the pale-looking Hun Yuantian. However, he did not disobey Hun Tiendi's orders. He inhaled a deep breath of air and his body suddenly began to swell wildly. A torrent of black flames surged out from within his body in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it had already swept throughout the entire world. The lush green forest of the burial mountain range below had been turned into ashes in an instant. Even the mountain rocks were turned into dust. The caution of the Alliance army surged after seeing this action of the nihility devouring flame. Xiao Yang's expression was grave as he rose into the air. Little Yi appeared ferocious as it stood on his shoulder. The pink purifying demonic lotus flame spread over the sky and turned into a huge fire curtain, which surrounded the Alliance army. With Xiao Yang's current spiritual strength, he was able to easily unleash the strength of the purifying demonic lotus flame to its fullest extent. Roar. The nihility devouring flame's icy cold eyes looked at Xiao Yang. A low beast-like roar was emitted from his throat. Immediately, his body, which had swelled to 1,000 feet, suddenly exploded. Bang! The sudden explosion caused the entire place to shake violently. Black flames covered the sky. The black flames seemed to have begun to gather at an extremely frightening speed at the spot where the nihility devouring flame had exploded. Within a short moment, a swiftly rotating black flame hole had appeared in the sky at that spot. The many experts from the Hun clan seemed to have received an order when they saw the black hole being formed. All of them rushed forward without a word being spoken. After which, they shot into the black hole. They are about to flee. The expressions of Lei Ying and the others changed upon seeing this scene. Many experts quickly rose into the air. Powerful Do-Chi shot out one after another without a need for any orders. Finally, they smashed towards the black hole from all directions. Humph! Faced with the sudden fierce attack from the many experts of the Alliance army, a cold snort was suddenly emitted from the nihility-devouring flame within the black hole. Immediately, black flame erupted like a volcano, surging out and colliding directly with the many attacks. After which, a devouring power erupted and wildly swallowed the many attacks. Trying to leave? It won't be so easy. Xiao Yang clearly found his target. He laughed coldly as the seals formed by his hands changed. A 10,000 feet body slowly appeared. The yellow spring divine anger that was unleashed by his DI state soul had a strength that was even more terrifying than his extermination fire lotus. This was an extremely pressurizing attack against those experts, whose spiritual strength was inferior to him. The damage of one's soul was not something that one could recover from simply resting. The moment the figure appeared, an earth-shaking spiritual attack shot out at a shocking speed. Even the devouring power of the black flames had been forcefully shattered under this spiritual assault. The spiritual attack ruthlessly smashed onto the black hole. Immediately, the bodies of at least 100 experts from the Hun clan exploded and turned into a bloody fog, which scattered within the black hole. The black hole also began to shake violently in the face of this head-on spiritual attack. There was a deep moan being vaguely emitted. Clearly, the nihility-devouring flame was unable to endure such an attack. Attack together, Xiao Yang cried in a deep voice. He frowned after seeing that the yellow spring divine anger was unable to destroy the black hole despite having some effect on it. With Jiyu Yuan being held back, the entire Alliance army did not object to some of Xiao Yang's orders. Even Lei Ying and the others had quietly nodded after sensing just how frightening Xiao Yang's spiritual strength was. Looking from just the point of fighting strength, Xiao Yang was already comparable with them. Hence, a large group of experts quickly rose into the sky after hearing Xiao Yang's cry. Various different Do skills were used at this moment. After which, the entire place shook under the vast and mighty attack. The densely packed attacks caused even someone with the strength of the nihility-devouring flame to feel his skin turning numb. Some hurried buzzing sound was emitted from within the black hole in the face of such a terrifying lineup. Soon after, one could see an endless number of black light erupting from it. Finally, a black ray of light that covered the sky collided violently with the attack of the Alliance army. Immediately, an indescribable frightening energy spread wildly across the sky. The entire mountain range was cut into two by the waves. 100,000 feet large deep gully stretched from the mountain range into the horizon. Hold them back. We must not allow them to leave with the ancient jade. Xiao Yang lifted his head. His eyes shot towards the brilliant fireworks in the sky as he cried out loud. 9 lightning calamity palm, burning flame blazing sky, yellow spring divine anger. The entire Alliance army's truly strong individuals had unleashed their strongest attacks at this moment. Immediately, the appearance of the sky was altered. Those observers in the distance felt their hearts trembled from fear. Some of the weaker individuals directly fell onto the ground. This was the first time that they had witnessed an attack of such strength. Bastard! Faced with such a terrifying attack, an irritated curse was also emitted from the nihility-devouring flame within the black hole. He was unable to withstand such a strike. The frightening attack had arrived almost instantly. However, the attacks were about to strike onto the black hole when a tall figure suddenly appeared in a flash. His expression was dark and solemn while his hands suddenly tore at the space in front of him. 100,000 feet large spatial crack erupted and swallowed all the powerful attacks from Xiao Yang's group. Hun Tiendi. Xiao Yang's expression sunk after he saw the figure which had intervened. The space beside Xiao Yang fluctuated after Hun Tiendi appeared. Jiyu Yuan surfaced from it. At this moment, the latter's long hair was in a mess. An aura, which caused even Xiao Yang to be terrified, quietly spread, causing the surrounding space to continue breaking and mending. What a great Xiao Yang! Hun Tiendi, originally calm face, was covered with a dark and cold murderous intent at this moment. He naturally understood that Xiao Yang's act of stealing the deathly silence gate had completely spoilt the Hun clan's plans of severely damaging the Alliance army in this place. Xiao Yang's eyes were also dark and solemn as he stared at Hun Tiendi. He did not hide the murderous desire in his eyes. He also wanted to kill Hun Tiendi. Jiyu Yuan, consider yourselves lucky this time around. However, I have already gathered all the ancient jades. Once I advance to the Do-Di class, your 3 clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance will be completely eliminated from the Do-Chi continent. Hun Tiendi looked at Xiao Yang before his eyes turned towards Jiyu Yuan. A dense cold smile was slowly lifted on his face. His body was slowly pulled back. Finally, he stepped into the black hole. The black hole shook and swiftly vanished. After which, the black flame that covered the place quickly paled. Jiyu Yuan, just you wait. The next time we meet, all of you will tremble and bow under my feet. Ha ha. The black hole disappeared. However, Hun Tiandi's dark and cold laughter continued to reverberate across the sky for a long time. Xiao Yang looked at the spot where the black hole had disappeared. His expression was cold as he involuntarily clenched his hands tightly. It was unexpected that the combined effort of the three clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance was unable to hold the Hun clan back. The latter was really too strong. How hateful, they had still managed to escape. Lei Ying and the others clenched their teeth with great dissatisfaction as they looked at the place where the black hole had disappeared. It was unexpected that even the three great clans and the Sky Mansion Alliance were actually unable to retain the Hun clan. The strength that the Hun clan had displayed had far exceeded what we knew about them in the past. Yang Jin's expression was grave. From a certain point of view, the current Hun clan is no longer something that any single faction could fight against alone. Even the Jiyu clan was unable to do so. It was precisely because of this that the danger he felt in his heart had increased. If the three clans had not cooperated, it was likely that they would be finished off by the Hun clan one at a time. Their fate would likely be no different for the Yarrow, Ling, and Shi clan. The Hun clan has hidden too deeply during these years. Jiyu Yuan, whose hair was in a mess, had a face that was also unusually grave. They always thought that even if the Jiyu clan was unable to defeat the Hun clan with its strength, the Jiyu clan should at least be equivalent to the Hun clan in strength. However, the cruel reality today had told them that the Jiyu clan was really no match for the Hun clan. Hun Tiendi is right. When the Xiao clan was defeated back then, there was no faction on this continent who could fight with them. Unfortunately, this truth was something that we are only aware of at today. Jiyu Yuan sighed. He also felt some regret in his heart. If the Xiao clan was still present, the Hun clan would likely not dare to start this war regardless of how bold it was. Lei Ying and the others laughed bitterly after hearing these words. It was a little too late to speak about this now. What should we do now? Xiao Yang was momentarily quiet before he replied. Everyone's eyes were thrown towards Jiyu Yuan after they heard this. The latter mused for a moment upon seeing this. Finally, he said, the Hun clan has already obtained all of the Tu Shi ancient god jade. After they recuperate, it is likely that they are going to put the ancient jades together and learn of the location of the Tu Shi ancient god mansion. The only thing that we can do now is to carefully observe the Hun clan. If any of their experts moved, we will quietly follow them until the location of the Tu Shi ancient god mansion. If it's spying on them, I'm afraid that the Hun clan would slip away and escape from us. By the time we discover it, it is likely that they have already entered the ancient god mansion. Lei Ying frowned and said. This was something that the Hun clan specializes in. They had not sensed anything wrong when the Hun clan had quietly destroyed the Ling, Shu, and Yarrow clans. This time around, I will personally observe them. Jiyu Yuan spoke in a deep voice. He understood the importance of this matter. If the Hun clan managed to successfully open the mansion and obtain the secret to advance into the Do Di class, it was likely that they would not have the opportunity to turn things around. In the eyes of a genuine Do Di, the so-called Alliance army would appear extremely insignificant. Everyone finally nodded after hearing these words. The two strongest in Divi. There would definitely be a big war once they reached the location of the Tu Shi ancient god mansion. This time around, even if we fight until many die, we must not allow the Hun clan to do what they please. Jiyu Yuan's expression was solemn as he spoke. Everyone nodded in unison. They understood that if they were to fail in this battle at the mansion, their fate would be the same as the other three clans. In order to retain their clan's bloodline, they must fight until death regardless of the great price they had to pay. The victor survives while the defeated dies. The army has remained at the Sky Mansion Alliance during this period of time and strictly observed the action of the Hun clan. Additionally, I feel that we should take the opportunity of this period of time to destroy the locations of all the Hall of Soul, which acts as the claws of the Hun clan, on the Central Plains. Xiao Yang opened his mouth and said after making a decision. The Hall of Soul her. It is perhaps time to completely destroy this tumor. Lei Ying and the others mused for a moment upon hearing this. A fierce glint flashed over their eyes. They were well aware of the actions of the Hall of Soul during these years. This faction had been collecting souls from all over the place. From the looks of it now, it seemed that the revival of the older generations of the Hun clan's experts like Hun Yuan Tian, who should have died a long time ago, had some relation with this. In that case, let's get this Alliance army to camp at the Sky Mansion Alliance. That place stands on the Central Plains and we will be able to monitor every action of the Hun clan. Jiyu Yuan did not object. Remaining in the Central Plains would make it convenient to monitor the Hun clan. Xiao Yang smiled and nodded. After which, he turned his head towards Yarrow Larrow and said, Teacher, I'll leave the matter of the army to you. Ha, relax. The Alliance might be lacking in many ways but we have a lot of room. It should not be a problem for these people to stay there. Yarrow Larrow fondled his beard and laughed. Additionally, the position of Chief of the Sky Mansion Alliance had been shifted to you before the army had set off. You are most suitable than me to take this position now. Xiao Yang was startled. He looked at the smile on Yarrow Laro's face and nodded helplessly. Currently, the alliance was becoming stronger. It did require a powerful alliance chief. Yarrow Laro might have the necessary reputation, but he was a little lacking in terms of strength. Allowing Xiao Yang to take the position would likely further stabilize the alliance. Xiao Yang once again left some instructions to Yarrow Laro and the rest before he suddenly turned his head to look at Cai Lin and Zun He softly said, "The both of you should follow me." Xiao Yang rushed towards a distant mountain after his words sounded. Cai Lin and Zun also understood him after seeing this. Their faces became slightly flush. They clenched their hands tightly. Their hearts, which showed no fear in the face of a large army, actually began to feel slightly anxious. Both ladies quickly glanced at each other as though they were cheering each other on. After which, they clenched their silver teeth gently and followed. Xiao Yang's figure landed on a mountain in the distance. The few experts from the alliance on the mountain quickly stood up after they saw his arrival. They bowed and welcomed him. Respect and fear filled their faces. "Alliance chief, I have troubled everyone." Xiao Yang waved his hand and quickly walked towards Xiao Zhon, who was guarded by everyone. He bowed respectfully and softly asked, "Father, are you all right?" Xiao Zhon looked at this somewhat skinny young man in front of him, whose hands seemed to possess the strength to fight the heavens. His eyes once again became moist. Pride and relief filled his heart. Although he was a great distance away earlier, he had also clearly seen the earth-shaking like big battle earlier. The terrifying strength which Xiao Yang had displayed during the big battle had caused him to be excited and pleased. During these years he had spent in the Hun clan, he clearly understood just how frightening the Hun clan was. Yet, even such a terrifying opponent seemed to have suffered a serious damage in the hands of this youngest son of his. "Yang, you have grown." Xiao Zhon's rough large hand patted Xiao Yang's shoulder. Back in the distant past, when everyone had thought that this former genius of the Xiao clan would become completely useless, only he stubbornly believed that the youth would one day soar to the skies. Decades later, the useless youth in the Wu-Tang city back then had already stood at the peak of this continent and overlook everything on it. Xiao Yang involuntarily felt a heartache as he looked at Xiao Zhon's much older face. He forcefully smiled and slowly moved his body aside. Two beautiful figures, which caused everything in the world to pale in comparison, were revealed behind him. "Uncle Xiao, do you still remember Zun Zun face was slightly flushed as she bowed gracefully and whispered, "Zun Xiao Zhon was startled. He looked at this beautiful fairy-like lady in front of him. Finally, he recalled the most brilliant and mysterious young lady of the Xiao clan back then. A joy immediately surged on his face. This was the most satisfactory daughter-in-law in his opinion about back then. However, the latter's status caused him to understand that it was merely wishful thinking on his part. He had even knocked Xiao Yang's head frequently because of this, telling him not to get too deep with Zun Father, Zun is currently a member of our Xiao clan." Xiao Yang approached Xiao Zhon and laughingly said, "Good fellow. You have really not disappointed your father." Xiao Zhon's elderly face revealed a great joy after hearing this. His palm slapped onto Xiao Yang's back. Zun's face had turned red with embarrassment after hearing the conversation of the two. His face was brilliant and alluring. "Who is this?" Xiao Zhon was happy for a moment before his eyes suddenly looked at Cai Lin at the side. The latter was quietly standing in one corner with a bewitching and tempting appearance. However, her originally cold pretty face had become a lot quieter and gentler. It caused Xiao Yang to be a little stunned. "Cough, this is also your daughter-in-law, Cai Lin." Xiao Yang's expression was a little unnatural. He coughed dryly and spoke in a low voice. Xiao Zhon's face twitched slightly. He covertly gave Xiao Yang a thumbs up. "There. Father, you should also have heard of Cai Lin. She has another name called Queen Medusa." Xiao Yang laughed. "Queen Medusa?" Xiao Zhon's mind trembled slightly upon hearing this name which he had once known very well. Even though he had currently seen many experts, his heart still had a lingering horror towards this Queen Medusa, whose fierce reputation was well known throughout the entire Jiomar Empire back then. After all, this was a name that no one had dared to even mention at the Jiomar Empire back then. However, he did not expect that this Queen Medusa, who had frightened the entire Jiomar Empire and a couple neighboring empires, would actually also become his daughter-in-law. "Uncle Xiao, that is all in the past. You can call me Cai Lin." Cai Lin smiled sweetly. She immediately glared at Xiao Yang icily and quietly warned him not to talk about the matters in the past. Xiao Yang involuntarily smiled in the face of Cai Lin's warning. After which, he looked at Xiao Zhon and smilingly said, "Father, let's return to the Sky Mansion Alliance first. Your granddaughter is also waiting for you there. At that time, I will also call big brother and second brother over. Our family will be able to reunite again." "Granddaughter." Jiyu Zhon widened his mouth. Various emotions immediately appeared in his heart. This little fellow, was he not a little too efficient? This video will end here.